And that's so it's winner. Welcome to That's a Winner podcast. I am Ryan Jenkins. With me, as always, Josh Brown. So we had planned to go on much earlier tonight and go on after this Cardinal win. And, well, 13 innings later, here we are. It is 11:30 here on the Eastern time, 10:30 in St. Louis. Well, Josh, that was a interesting way to get a win. Like, neither team wanted to win the game, and somehow the Cardinals in the 13th inning get Albert's sac fly and a Newt Bar bomb. Thank goodness, because they gave up a run in the bottom half as well.
Which we knew was going to come, right? That was bound to happen.
Yeah.
Finally got some fundamental baseball. Albert did it earlier, a couple innings before moving the runner over. You and I were sitting here watching it. It was rough to watch. It was one of those that just seemed like every time we didn't score a run, it's like, okay, Reds are going to get a blue pit here. They're going to get a wild pitch. They're going to get something's crazy, and they're going to wind up winning this game. We're going to lose 2-3. But the Cardinals pull it out, and the Newt Bar home run winds up being the deciding factor. And we can get into a breakdown of this, but I will say I think Ollie managed these extra innings as perfectly as you could, bringing the extra infielders in, some clutch throws from Tommy. The second one, not so much the first one, clutch play by Yachty to get the tag. But man, what a win! They needed that one.
Yeah, whenever I don't remember what inning was, but whenever they had no outs, runner at third, first and third, I think, wherever it ended up being, and they brought in Gorman to be able to take out Dickerson and brought him on the infield as well. That was like, you have nothing else to do. Like, we got to try and save this game, and they were able to get out of that. I mean, I think Ollie managed perfectly through the extra innings and just waiting for the team to start hitting, and only hit after the Tommy double in the seventh was Newt's home run. So almost six innings later, there was only one hit since then. So the bullpen obviously did great. Quintana only went 4 1/3, I think, 4 2/3, something like that.
Yeah, not great from the starters.
Yeah,
in this series. None of them. I don't think any of them went past the fifth,
right,
or even got through 5.
Right, but then if you look at it from the other angle of the bullpen gave up 0 runs in 9 innings. They just threw a 9-inning shutout. The bullpen did. So you can't really ask for much more than that from the bullpen tonight.
Yeah, plus what Jake Woodford did last night. 3
Yeah.
scoreless innings, 1 or 2 hit ball. Yeah, the bullpen was the deciding. I mean, they probably, I think, would get the game ball from me.
Yeah.
Palante really tonight, throwing 3 innings to finish it out. He was fantastic. Did a great job. Poised, especially for a young guy, a rookie. A guy that, with Flaherty out, was not expected to be starting this year. Did great when he was starting. Said, hey, we need you to go back in the bullpen. He's done great in the bullpen. He has taken the ball every time with, like, some authority. Like, all right, I'm here. I know I should be here. I know I'm going to stay here. And he's proven it. And, man, yeah, he gets the game ball tonight. Newt Bar gets to do his pepper grinder with his home run. But the game ball's got to go to Palante for sure.
Absolutely. And, to move forward a little bit, August, talking about a little back, going forward. August, this is the last game of August. The Cardinals now, I don't know the exact record they end up with.
22-win month.
20. Well, is that 22 or 23 now?
I thought it was 22.
I think this goes to 23 now. I think this makes it 23 and 5-ish, something like that. Maybe 6. Either way, it was a hot month. It's the second best record in baseball in the month of August. Now, obviously, that's great. Does anything worry you now that this series happens that they didn't hit very well? Does that change any of your, as the best offense in August, right? In the majors was the Cardinals in all categories. Now,
especially in home runs.
right. So does this series worry you at all for that, or are we just like, hey, it's a blip on the radar? Off day tomorrow. We get the lowly Cubs coming in to go home this weekend.
Hopefully, it's a blip on the radar. I mean, we need it to be because that was the story of this series, really, especially with hitting and with runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
It was one, or no, it was like 0 for 16 tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
Newbar's home run was a runner on first. So, yeah, not good. First game blowout win, 13-4 or whatever it was. Offense looked great there.
Right.
But since that game, I mean, these last two games were really terrible, especially situational hitting with runners in scoring position. I don't think it's too worrisome. Hopefully, it's just a blip. We haven't been the best away from home.
That's what I was going to ask, too.
I think now with this win, we have a winning record on the road.
I think we are 2 over.
Yeah, 1 or 2 over on the road now.
So I was going to ask, so do you think that is a away from Busch Stadium effect? Or do we think that, because at home they are like 20 games over 500 plus? It's more than that.
One of the best teams in the majors at home.
And, obviously the sweep of the Yankees happened at home, taking 2 or 3 against the Braves this past weekend happened at home. The big wins of the season have happened at home. So is it because the home versus away is split, home versus away splits, or is it something that it's Great American Ballpark? We don't play there well sometimes either.
It could be that, yeah. It is odd. I mean, especially with the road trip like this with Cincy, a team that's just they're really bad
not
right
good,
now.
Right? They don't have Joey Votto. They don't have. They've traded away their good pitchers.
They've traded away everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, they have their closer, Diaz, is the one good arm they've got. He's had a really good year. He shut us down last night. But, I mean, every pitcher you saw coming in, every pitcher you saw starting ERAs over 4 at a minimum, most of them over 5 and 6. And I think that's the alarming part of this. We just didn't hit the ball, and we didn't hit the ball against bad pitchers. So if there's anything that worries me a little bit, it's the fact that it was bad pitchers. If this was a series against the Mets, and we had to face, DeGrom and Scherzer in the series, I wouldn't be ripping the offense apart right now. But it's a little bit alarming that it was the Reds. So we'll see how they bounce back this weekend against the Cubs. But, yeah, it wasn't great. And I think you don't want to say the biggest concern because he's been so good the whole season except for the first month. But you and I were talking about it. Goldschmidt's had some rough at-bats the last 4 or 5 games, particularly strikeouts, like 6 or 7 now in the last 4 or 5 games.
And missing easy pitches.
Yeah, missing a lot of fastballs over the heart of the plate, like 92, 93, 94, not high velocity pitches. That's a little bit odd. Maybe he's a little fatigued. I don't know. Some people I saw saying, well, maybe he gets the day off today to give him 2 in a row. But
if that was the case, if the fatigue was the case, I would have expected that today.
Yeah, but with a lefty starting, I would have bet against that anyway. So, but hey, they got an off day tomorrow to get back to St. Louis. Hopefully that, settles things down a little bit. But I will say, I mean, the one guy who's hit this whole time is Nolan. I mean, Arenado's been great. He was great in the Brave series. He hit this weekend. This week against the Reds. He's been really good. And Lars Nootbaar, man, I mean, he finishes the month like in top 2 or 3 of on base percentage. You want to talk about a guy that's taken the reins of not only right field, but the leadoff spot. And we've been looking up for a leadoff hitter all season. And he didn't even start the game tonight.
Right. And I was going to say, Tommy went back to the leadoff tonight. Tommy's been hitting the last few nights as well, which is great to see. But does Lars, so what do you do now with Lars and Tommy? Where do you go? I guess, because I guess when it's a righty, you're going to put Lars up there. When it's a lefty, you're going to put Tommy up there, as long as Tommy keeps hitting, as long as Lars keeps hitting, because what you'd like to see is what Tommy has been hitting the last few nights, which has been awesome. And it looks doubles, and he's had slugging, he's power, it's all of it. So it's exactly what you want. But Newt has been unstoppable as well over the last month-ish as well. So, I guess that's probably the best thing to do is take the splits and go that way.
I think so. I think the way Ollie has been playing it is really smart. And we would have never seen this under Schilt or under Matheny. It'd be the same 1 or 2 guys. Oh, Matt Carpenter's a leadoff.
DeYoung would still be playing shortstop.
Exactly. DeYoung would be like Brandon Moss was a few years ago when he was 6 for 90 something and still out there.
Or Carpenter.
Yeah. And so I think the way that Ollie's doing it, the way that he's approached it is really wise. So yeah, when right-handed starters on the mound, I think it's a fantastic idea to have either Nootbaar or Donovan 1 or 2. I would even say, because Donovan, his OBP is over 380.
I think it's 400
He's
again.
pushing 400.
Yeah.
So I would even say, like, I wouldn't hate Donovan leading off and Newt Bar batting second just because Newt Bar has pop. I mean, he's a guy now. That was his 10th home run tonight. So he's entered double digits in a short time this season. So he's shown that he has pop as well. So I would even say maybe try Donovan out, leading off against right-handed pitcher, have Newt Bar second. Either way, one of those, those two guys, one or two in some way against righties. But Newt Bar, and I need to look at his splits more against lefties, but I know he's still been walking against them.
Yeah.
He's still been putting up good at bats. So with the way that Dylan Carlson's been playing right now, man, I know he got to bat second tonight because it was a lefty starter, but another just rough night for him, and he was pinch hit for later. Like I wouldn't hate Newt Bar even still at the top one or two, even against a lefty.
Yeah, I think that conversation kind of popped up on 101 ESPN today or yesterday. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Kind of things. But I could see it if Tommy's leading off, like you talked about. If Tommy's on the leadoff, you could put Newt second. I don't know. I don't think I'm ready to
against the lefty.
Yes, against the lefty. I'm not there to move him off that right now if it's against a righty because he's done so well. So like, don't change it up. Like, just keep it going. It's kind of how I look at it that way. But that's the best case scenarios that they've all been hitting. So even on what is today now, the first game of this series, even Arenado didn't hit in that game, and obviously Goldie didn't either.
Still put up 13 runs.
And they put up 13 runs beside
two bombs from O'Neill.
Yeah, in spite of those guys, one inning, those two had all three outs.
Yeah.
So because of that, the rest of the team has kind of picked them up, and they've kind of picked up Goldie this series. Like, hey, we still won 2 or 3, and you weren't at the MVP caliber. It shows that the team can win in different ways, and that's important because when we get to the postseason,
you're going to need that.
You're going to need wins in different ways, and you're going to have to. But what we didn't see tonight is been a win with the small ball way. Couldn't get bunts down. We had multiple opportunities in the extras or into late inning situations to try and move runners over. Like in the 12th, I think Tommy couldn't bunt to move, and then Gorman flew out and would have been a sac fly to be able to take the lead then. So there's just little things that they still didn't do right this series, but still take 2 out of 3. You got to be happy with that part. I mean, I think some people are like, oh, we got to win all of them now. I mean, but it's the Reds and you should, be in all the games, but you got to take what you can, and 2 out of 3 against bad teams is still pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you need it, and just keep doing what you're doing.
And it's in that ballpark. I put that ballpark in the same as like Coors.
It's tough.
And like, it's just a weird place to play. Sometimes the ball is just flying out. Obviously tonight it wasn't really flying out for anybody, but
the cameraman tried to
make
that one fly.
Well, I don't even know who that guy was, but I thought the game was over. Right? It was 9th inning, 10th inning.
Yeah, I think it was the 10th, yeah.
I thought the ball was second deck where O'Neill's ball was the night before. Like, I thought it was a bomb, and then it didn't even get to the warning track. Just faking us all out.
Yeah, faked us all out. Yeah, I mean, big takeaways. Bullpen was great. Zach Thompson has looked good. He was throwing 99 the other night. I don't know if you saw that. He was talking about watching Ryan Helsley.
Yes.
Actually, in his preparation in bullpen and picking up some things, and maybe pick up a few miles per hour on his fastball. So that's great to see. Jojo Romero, who we got in the Mundo Sosa trade, he's looked pretty good this week. He stayed up to be a lefty. So those two guys, there's opportunity there now. TJ McFarland, I know they got him back, but I don't think he's coming back anytime soon from the minors. So you need at least one lefty in the playoffs. I would feel more comfortable with 2 who could get some outs. And the opportunities open up for those 2 guys with McFarland gone, with Genesis Cabrera sent back down to work on some stuff now. So there's opportunity there. I like Zach Thompson a lot. I think he can perform in that role. I think, overall the positive, definitely the bullpen, these 3 games. Tyler O'Neill seems like he's back. That Braves, the third game, the last game of the series against the Braves, big home run. He had 2 first game of this series. Nobody really hit yesterday.
Yeah.
Nobody really hit tonight, but he stung several balls tonight, just right at people. So, and Albert keeps hitting the ball hard. I mean, he's hitting the ball hard. So that's all you can ask for, even against right-handed pitching right now.
Yes, he's taking good at bats.
Yeah.
And he's playing a lot lately. Even against righties, he's been in the start.
He started all 3 games this series.
Yes. And I talk about O'Neill just a bit. This team is way different when Tyler O'Neill is hitting.
If you get the O'Neill that we got last year, with the way that Nolan and Goldschmidt have been hitting, you get one more person in kind of that 3 to protect, really no one. He's been batting fifth or sixth, O'Neill lately. Man, that would be huge, especially going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I try not to be hyperbolic in the things that I say, and I feel with when if he's hitting well and Tommy is back on track, and you have Montgomery and Quintana to solidify your team and your pitching.
Flaherty here soon,
yeah, and Flaherty, talk about that in a second. Like if you have that set up, I feel really strongly about this team making a serious run to the NLCS and possible World Series appearance.
Yeah.
When you're talking about that type of thing happening. Like, and I couldn't imagine me saying that earlier in the season, but when this team plays up to the abilities that they can, the team is a really serious contender.
It is. And I think, the guys on BK and Ferrario, and I think the Fast Lane were talking about this today, but I think I heard it first on BK and Ferrario. But they were talking about, and I don't know that I could think of another time that the Cardinals had this many players that can contribute, like the younger guys. It's like Brendan Donovan,
right.
Tommy Edman, two guys that can play almost everywhere around the diamond. Lars Nootbaar, another young guy coming up who he's been the one really to step up since Harrison Bader's been traded. We all thought it was going to be Dylan Carlson.
Yes.
He had a couple of good games, but he's just, hopefully it's a sophomore slump this season with Carlson. But Nootbaar has stepped up, man, and he's just like, you're not taking right field from me.
And Nootbaar was very good last year down the stretch as well, and he was obviously really terrible early on this year, but he was the player he is now was kind of what people expected him to be coming out of the gates this season.
Which was probably unfair.
Absolutely.
Because he wasn't getting consistent at bats.
Absolutely.
And he wasn't going to, especially with the addition of Dickerson.
And Yepez came in as well. Like, Gorman came up, Yepez, Donovan. Like, there wasn't a lot of bats to be had. And so, yes, it was definitely unfair that's what to expect of him. But he's now hitting that way and playing that way, and he plays a good right field defensively. I think about last year in that run of the 17-game win streak, he was a big part of that win streak. The catch in the Mets game in New York, like he was a really big part of that whole series, and so was TJ McFarland. But that was a big part of those guys. For those guys was in the 17-game win streak, and he's been really good. Now he's playing back to that level, and it's really good to see. And it makes the team so much deeper whenever those types of guys are able to go and play like that. I have a question though. I'm a real big into you got to have winners on your team to be able to teach the young guys and teach people how to be winners and have the opportunity to win.
Yeah.
Is this window right now closing if this team doesn't win something that all the winners may no longer be on this team? Because this team changes a lot of dynamics come next year.
Yeah.
It becomes a lot younger, but there is not a lot of veteran leadership, depending on what Wainwright does, obviously, to go forward that have won something. Like, 2011 is...
Or even just played in playoff.
Or even had good runs in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Like, 2011 was a long time ago. If you think of it, it was a long time ago, and there's just bits and pieces of that winning caliber of players in this Cardinals organization that may not be here, or a lot of them won't be here next year. So is it really important that this team makes a serious run so those guys can usher in these young guys for the future?
I think it is. And I think, obviously, the guys we're talking about are Albert, Yachty, Waino. Michaelis has had a little bit of postseason now these last couple of years with us. Jack, obviously, in 2019 had a pretty solid postseason.
Yes, he had a great,
even against the Nationals, even though we didn't hit. But yeah, I mean, with Albert and Yachty for sure retiring, those are two guys who are huge that have that experience. So I do think it's going to be big this year for guys like Gorman, maybe Yepez. I'm going to guess that Yepez is the bat that gets called up when rosters expand instead of, Alec Burleson, just because Yepez has been there this year. He's gotten some experience.
And he's on the 40-man.
Exactly. So guys like him, the young guys, even a guy like Brendan Donovan, who's a gamer, not somebody who's supposed to be counted on this year, but he is now. He's huge. He played like 3 different positions tonight or something. So he's been great. But guys like that, like you're talking about, Tommy's got a little bit of postseason experience now. But yeah, I mean, after those two leave, if Waino doesn't come back, the only pitchers you have that have postseason experience are going to be Michaelis, Flaherty, and maybe I would assume Jordan Montgomery has had appearances probably the last couple of years in postseasons with the Yankees. I don't know if he started any
Sure.
games, but after that, especially with your bullpen, you're not going to have any guys. Helsley has had some appearances, I think 19, 20 around there.
Against the Braves.
Yes.
We can't
when
forget
they were
that.
all mad about the chop.
Yeah.
But other than that, your bullpen's not going to have much, and these young position players aren't going to have much. Goldie and Arenado, I don't worry about them in the playoffs, even though they haven't had deep runs or won. They've been there, and I do think that they're guys that will be able to handle that stage. So maybe they're the guys. Hopefully this year we go deep. Maybe they're the guys next year that are leading that in. But yeah, it's a good point. I mean, for sure that you don't have that. You're not going to have that next season, especially if Wainwright doesn't come back to help lead the pitching staff.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of guys talked about the Cardinal way and playing the Cardinal way, and that kind of went away when Schilt came in, is what people talked about. Like Matheny was very hardcore on it, and they got kind of away from it. And the winning pedigree has been obviously a thing of the 2000s St. Louis Cardinals, and obviously in 4 and 6 and 11 and 13, that run, that stretch of seasons and even some of the seasons, they were still pretty darn good, made a lot of NLCS runs. But, whenever they get to that point, it's been 10, 11 years since that has happened. Like, I wonder if they, I don't know, forget is the right word, but we as fans think about that's still this team, but it's really not. There's not a lot of that carryover anymore. I mean, because we're all a lot older since 2011.
Yeah.
Or 2013 even.
I was thinking maybe we get in a good situation. And they talked about this on one of the shows I was listening to earlier. I think it was the Fast Lane, but maybe this is actually the start of that window.
Sure.
Because of the core. So
I heard them mention that as well, and that's why I pushed back. My thought was at that time was, like this is the window.
Guys that don't have the experience.
There's no experience, and you can look back at all the champions in many sports over years. There's always the veteran leadership that has proven winners. That guys have won something.
But maybe we're going into a situation, maybe these next 3 to 4 years, that's more like the Houston Astros. So a young core that never been there.
Yeah.
Altuve, Bregman, Correa, none of those guys.
They had a little help.
Well, they did have a little help. They did have a little help banging on trash cans and everything.
Yeah.
Else. But they were young players that had never been in the playoffs. And I think Jim said before, or maybe even Danny Mac, you get some of these young guys that come in, maybe they're just ignorant enough to not know better. And that bright lights, they feed off. I could see Lars feeding off the postseason.
Absolutely.
And loving it. You know what I mean? Like not seeing it as a pressure. I mean, there's going to be pressure, but seeing it as like feeding off of it. And that's what, that's Altuve. You can hate the Astros all you want, but those guys are great players. Bregman, Altuve, Correa's not there anymore, or Springer's not there anymore either, I guess. But a lot of the young core for those 3 or 4 years when they won a championship, they kept going into those deep ALCS runs. Maybe we're coming into that with some of these players. And yes, you're going to need, like they've got Justin Verlander, right?
Right.
You're going to need a veteran that's been there or two. And I think if Waino comes back next year, I'll feel a lot better about it. But in terms of, other players, position players, maybe they go sign a guy that's been there before. I don't know who that would be.
Well, I had that thought as well.
Catcher.
I thought that.
Catcher's the biggest hole next year.
And I thought to the transition to that is the rumor of Wilson Contreras, the Cardinals are going to look at. He's got that pedigree, right? He's been there. He's been there. He's won a championship. He's been in a few good runs as well. I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to look that way, but I think it has to be on a short term and decent money. And I don't know what that even looks like. Like I don't even know where the Cardinals say, yeah, we're interested, and then it's too much and it's too long. Like I don't know even that. I don't even know where that is because you still think that Herrera is still that guy coming, right? He's only 22 years old.
I hope so.
Yeah, he's 22 years old, and you think that he's going to be that guy.
We've thought this. How many times have we thought this?
Sure.
Yeah. Carson Kelly's going to be the guy.
Yeah.
Andrew Kisner's going to be the guy. And now it finally seems like Herrera is like really there with Yachty being done.
But no offense to Carson Kelly, but he is that guy in the Diamondbacks organization, right? I mean, he's not going to be as Yachty, but he is a starting everyday catcher in the major leagues. So and
has been productive. He hasn't been great,
right?
But has been productive.
But when we think about catchers, we're really swayed. Like arguably, we've had two of the greatest defensive catchers back to back. Like Mike Matheny was a great defensive catcher, and he was really good. And I couldn't see at that time, like how is this young guy going to take any time from Matheny? And obviously the concussions and all that is what ushered
Did
him
it for
out.
him.
Yeah, but Matheny was an awesome, like, everything to the book of catcher. Like
Oh yeah.
he was great. And then Yachty is obviously one of the best ever. So it's hard to put Carson Kelly like, yeah, you got to do that next. Like
Right.
we pumped Yachty up so high, it's hard for anyone to come in next.
Nobody's going to meet those expectations.
No way.
I will shout out to Carson Kelly. We played the Diamondbacks the other week. He's a good catcher, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you can tell, like, framing wise and things like that he like paid attention to Yachty over those years, because that's something we've talked about that Kisner's
Terrible
still
at.
tough on.
And he was really bad 2
Yeah.
years ago. He had some bad stretches, and he said he's worked on it, and he has. But so I think that we think, oh man, Herrera didn't do well, Kisner didn't do well, but they're not Yachty, and they're not going to be Yachty.
No.
And Yachty was no good on the offensive side for a long while either.
It took a while.
Took years until he was in a good hitter, and he's obviously fallen off
It was
now.
like his 6th or 7th season that he cracked 20 home runs for
Right.
the first time or something, and finished in the top 5 in MVP. I mean, that was
And he was
like
clutch.
6, 7, 8 years in.
It was more of a clutch
Exactly.
situation, obviously, in the 06 NLCS, big hits in his second season, starting. Like, he was able to timely hit, not necessarily hit all the time.
Right. And that's what's been so hard to watching this year.
Yeah.
Because it's the exact opposite of what we're seeing from Albert.
Right.
Like, I'll be honest with you, if you had asked me at the beginning of the season, like, how it would kind of play out,
I would expected Yachty to be better.
Yeah, or at least still be a clutch hitter, and Albert to be the one maybe we're kind of like, oh man, this is rough to watch.
Well, and it was like that for a while. Let's not forget.
Yeah, Albert had. I mean, he hit some bombs there the first month.
He did.
It was exciting, but yeah,
he got real cold. I was worried we were going to be at 5. If you remember when I said, what is a hot take that's a bad hot take, is Albert's going to hit 200 and hit 5 home runs. And he was sitting there for a while, and I'm like, oh, gosh.
It was looking rough.
Yeah.
But Yachty's just, he snapped an 0 for 22 tonight with a single. But you see where else he brings, such, like, importance to not only the pitching staff and calling games, but framing and stealing strikes. And then tonight, that play at the plate, bad throw by Tommy, took him to his right, and he was able to come back around, get the tag, somehow not block the plate, and not have that overturned. Like, I'm sorry, man. Like, no offense to Kisner, I do not think he makes that play.
No, and I don't
think he gets the tag in the way that Yachty did.
I've also seen a lot of people say that Yachty's got to be out of this game, got to be out of a game.
Yeah.
He needs less starts, but the pitching staff is much better when Yachty
started winning when he came back.
When Yachty is on the field, he gets the respect from the umpire. He gets the respect from the other team not running and not taking bases because he's Yachty or Molina. And so that's the difference. Like, Kisner is not going to be Yachty, and neither is Ivan Herrera. So, like, the umpires know that as well. And even if the offense does what it's supposed to do, and Yachty can just hit in a clutch situation, I'm perfectly fine with him not hitting very well, because he's out there for the pitching staff. Yeah. And that's all that really matters to me. I mean, and people I've seen all over Twitter today, and it's just and yesterday, I mean, he was an 0 for 22 slump before tonight, right? Like, Yachty's out there to catch. It's back to 2004, 2005, Yachty and Molina in 2006. Like, you're there to catch and make and defensively be great. Yeah. And that's what I expect from him from now and until the end of the season.
Yeah, my only worry with Contreras would be, I haven't watched enough of him to know how well he is defensively.
Yeah, I think his defensive run saves this year is -1.
Okay.
I heard that today.
So not great.
No.
He's
an upgrade from Kisner and Herrera, though. He is. Defensively.
And offensively, for sure.
Yes, he's an upgrade overall.
22 home runs or something this year.
Yes.
He's always been a great hitting catcher.
But I would say he's even an defensively upgrade from those two as well.
Yeah, well, and he has the experience. But I would say too, man, my only kind of worry with him also is, why did no one trade for him? And Danny Mac and others have talked about that. It's like, nobody wanted him.
So
not enough to go get him, and I wonder if there's just a little of, is there some clubhouse stuff going on? Or maybe is he not as good defensively? Or I've heard say maybe he can't call games as well.
Well, so BT said he talked to some guys whenever they were in town and said, what happened here, what's going on here, and it was possibly some clubhouse stuff.
I could see that.
And
he's a bit of a flashy.
Right.
He has a little bit of that Javi Baez
But
kind of flashiness about him.
When you're 20 games under 500, you're probably not very happy, right?
I would hope not.
Yeah. Right. So like he probably expects more from the organization. He probably expects more from his teammates. He probably expects more. He played on a winning ball club for a few years.
I'm down for it to happen. But
I am too.
The only reason I'll tell you why.
Years and money is what matters.
Years and money. But the one reason I would be down to see it happen is just to see Cubs fans have a complete meltdown. Because they didn't care so much with Fowler, right?
Right.
I mean, they knew we got probably his best season, that 2016, and they did. I said that before we even got him. Like, this is not going to work out well. But Contreras, man, they would. Oh.
And they think the world of him. They think he's They think he's like elite defender, and he's not. And they think like if you talk to Cubs fans over the last, like they think he is better than Yachty and has been for years. And he's obviously not. He's better offensively than Yachty, and he wasn't. But I don't know that I'd have to look at the numbers to say that for sure. But I would say putting his numbers in Yachty's prime numbers, they've got to be very similar into what he did offensively. Maybe Contreras with a little slight edge, but defensively, Yachty still was better and is mostly still better. But I would be interested as well, just because of that reasons that I spoke of. There's now what are your other options? The A's are going to dump Murphy, yeah, but it's going to cost you a move because they still have control of him. So, like, what are your other options out there? Herrera is 22 years old, not quite ready to go. And this year was Kisner's year to prove to the Cardinals organization that he's ready. And obviously, I think by everyone watching, that proved that he was not, and he is not ready to take over the reins fully.
No, he's not. And I was looking at Yachty's numbers here we were talking about on the hitting side. So Yachty's peak, I think we would all say, was, especially hitting, was 2011 through 2013.
Mm-hmm.
OPS plus 124, 137, 129. Those 3 years, 137's the highest OPS plus. Yeah, that was the 22 home runs, 76 RBI season, finished fourth in MVP. I mean,
right. He was fourth in MVP.
315 average, 373 OBP. Slugged over 5. It's the only year he's ever slugged even close to 500, and he slugged over 500. So consistently over like 125 OPS plus. Contreras, his first season with the Cubs, 2016, they won the World Series, only 76 games, but he hit 122 OPS plus. 2019 to today, 2021 wasn't great. It was okay, 106, 108. He had the COVID season in there. 2019 was a 127 OPS plus. He had 24 home runs. That's his career high. And then this year, 128 OPS plus at 21 homers. So he's got a chance to pass his career high in home runs this year. He could get to 25 last month.
But the point is, he's not a world beater.
And his peak is comparable.
That's my point.
But I would say Yachty, overall, in terms of RBIs, clutch hitting, probably better at his peak.
Absolutely.
Where Contreras is right now.
That's my point.
Contreras is already 30.
Yes.
It seems like he's younger than he is, but he'll be 31. He'll be 31 next May.
Yeah. That's my point, is that Contreras is not the world beater that people have led you to believe that he is. And
how many gold gloves does he have?
I would assume 0.
Exactly.
Because Yachty has won them all in that time frame.
Yes.
So, obviously he's not that what you think he is. But now, if you're talking about a 2-year deal, yeah. And
why not?
And then you can obviously get him in some time with some DH stuff, just depending on what happens, and if you want Herrera to get some. And I'm perfectly fine signing him and shipping Kisner somewhere as well. For whatever you need, some bullpen, some pitching, whatever it is, I'm perfectly fine with that as well, because you have to usher in the new somehow. And Herrera, as what they've said, is going to be that guy. And he's really young. 22 years old for a catcher. I don't know how old Yachty was when he came in, but it was probably similar to that in 04.
Yachty was 21.
21. That's
only played 51 games.
In 04, 03?
04.
04, yeah. So, and obviously he took over for an injury. That's a different thing as well.
But do you think it stunts Herrera's growth a little bit and his confidence if the Cardinals say they go do sign 2-year deal,
2-year
3-year deal.
A 2-year deal? No, I don't think it does.
It's probably not going to happen
Yeah.
because I think Contreras can get more than 2 years on the market with somebody
Right.
that's looking for a catcher. But you look at the situation, it's like if you've lifted him up as the next guy,
Yeah.
why not go ahead and give him the keys?
Because you think the winning window is right now.
Right.
Because
that's the good point there, I think, too. Is
Yeah.
if you think the winning window is right now and he's not ready,
then you have to do it.
You have to go get somebody.
Absolutely. You have to add another bat because adding 20 to 30 more home runs, let's say his career high is going to be 25, adding 20 to 25 home runs in this lineup that you already like is pretty damn good, right? I mean, that's big change.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it really sits, is that you're trying to add in more pop in a lineup that you already like.
Yeah, and I would assume that free agent catchers in 2023 is going to be pretty thin, would be my guess.
Yeah.
I was pulling that up here. Contreras, Gary Sanchez is a name. Obviously,
is a name.
Is a name.
Is a name. Not a name I want, but it is a name.
He is a name. Martin Maldonado is a name I've heard.
He's a great defensive catcher.
And he could be a guy that if you don't go get a Contreras, that I could see on a 1-year or 2-year deal. He postseason experience.
Yeah.
He's won with Houston.
Yes.
Defensively great.
He
can call a game well.
He's a great defensive catcher.
Maybe you do what you did with Kisner and Yadier this year with Maldonado and Herrera, and give Herrera some of that experience and somebody to shadow. Tucker Barnhart, Austin Hedges, Jason Castro, Mike Zunino is a name. Not a great catcher, but has a lot of power. Kurt Suzuki, solid defensively. So there's like some guys maybe out there on a 1-year deal.
I think you're talking about 1-year, 2-year deal guys. Yeah. Sean Murphy's not going to happen based on you got to trade for him, and he's got control, but also he's pretty young as well because obviously he's pre-arbitration currently. So
I'd be very surprised if they did that.
I mean, it would be good, but then you're really saying Herrera and Kisner, it's not going to be you.
So if you go trade for him, for example, it would probably take Herrera,
right?
And maybe not. Would that be the worst thing?
No, it wouldn't.
If you think this 3 to 4 year window is your time to go, I mean, why not?
Yeah, it really depends.
Be interesting this
it really depends what they being the Oakland A's want for him, and
and we know they wanted way too much from Montas,
right? And I think we got the better end of that scenario of who they shipped out and brought in, but. I just don't see them. I think if they're interested in someone short term because they think they have it in Ivan Herrera. But I always like to get the guy that's already proven versus the one who's coming down the line in a few years. But Ivan Herrera has been here already and hasn't shown a lot, but he hasn't been given a lot of opportunities. But it's all about the window. You think, like you just talked about, that Cardinals window is this year, next year, like the next couple of years. You got Walker coming up, you have Wynn coming up. You like. This team is going to look a lot different over the next couple of years, but it should be a lot better and a lot more depth to it. So you want, some guys to add to it and add some around it. But let's move on a little bit and talk Jack Flaherty.
Yes.
Jack Flaherty pitched. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I think it's like 7 innings tonight. Gave up 3 runs, 9 strikeouts. Reportedly, even touched 100 miles an hour.
Yes. He was pretty solid tonight. I just pulled it up here. 6 2/3. Didn't quite get through the 7th.
Yeah, she got pulled on that triple.
He had runners on first and second, a triple, scored a couple runs into the night for him. But the biggest highlights of this, 102 pitches, 66 strikes.
Need that.
Good to see him throwing strikes. I'd like to see that probably. I know Wainwright always talks about like 70 or more. If you're throwing over 100 pitches, he wants 70 or more to be strikes. 66 strikes, not bad. 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, 9 Ks though. It's Double-A, but I think the biggest takeaway is over 100 pitches, pitched into the 7th, and his breaking ball, especially from what we were seeing with Kyle Reese. If you're not following Kyle Reese, follow Kyle Reese.
How can you not at this point?
He jiffed the whole game. But life on the fastball was hitting high 90s. I think one time he hit 100.
Yep.
It was a ball, but.
Still 100.
To see that he has that. Yeah.
Whenever he was off, we could tell he's hitting low 90s, 93, and we're like worried.
The slider was sharp. And
Yeah.
a lot of the clips that I saw, like that's his pitch, right? That's his strikeout pitch is that slider and commanding the fastball inside. Man, he looked good. And I'm telling you, we know he's coming in the rotation. Always
Yes.
said that. It looks like he's set up to pitch Labor Day, Monday,
Mm-hmm.
either Monday or Tuesday, one of those 2 days. Probably is going to replace Dakota Hudson in the rotation, would be my guess. Unless they go to a 6-man. And if Ollie utters those words, I would imagine the first person coming to his office is Adam Wainwright saying, "We're not doing it."
Yeah, but there's those doubleheaders still in the schedule.
Yes,
it's a weekish
But let me ask
away,
you
something
this.
like that.
Even if you have a doubleheader come up, who would you rather see pitching one of those games now, Dakota Hudson or Jake Woodford? I think Jake Woodford's earned a chance to get a start or two.
He does, but I think they'd rather have him in long relief. I think they'd rather piggyback him again like they did last night.
Right.
I really dove into the numbers last night
Well,
because
what if you had started him last night?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But Jake Woodford has been decent this year, but they tried that last year and he wasn't any good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he took advantage of a couple of starts, but then he got flat. But what I liked about him this year is they sent him down, even though he didn't have bad numbers, and they said, "Hey, the spin rate's not great on your slider. We want you to work on your slider."
Yeah.
And he did that. And I don't know if you watched a whole lot or saw a whole lot last night. I watched him those 2 or 3 innings. His slider looks really good now, man. So I mean, he went down. So and that's part of it too. I'm like, how many times have we heard Ollie say, "Yeah, Dakota's got to speed it up"?
Right.
Like,
but he said he liked what he saw from Dakota last night. He said
yes.
he did what he was supposed to do. My question is, how much longer is Dakota on the books, arbitration wise, all that? He doesn't have another year or so. Like if you're doing that, you're burning him because he coming off of injury. I just don't think that the Cardinals are ready to burn him because you're so close to the end of the season and you're talking about just one more start possibly, right? If you're talking about maybe 1 or 2 more starts because of that doubleheader. Like, obviously Dakota Hudson can be left off the playoff roster because you're not going to be able to need that spot. But I really dove into the numbers, like for a 5th starter, like that's where we got to compare him to. I think we look at it and say we need more from him. We need more from him. But as a 5th starter, he's right in line with what 5th starters do in the Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Like the average team win-loss for Major League Baseball is 500 for a 5th starter.
Right.
He's 10-11 as a team, not in his decisions. 10-11 in that. He's right on par. His ERA is 4 something. The average 5th starter is over 5.
I think the issue with him right now is he's not giving you innings.
Well, he's so
he's not going over 5.
I looked that up as well. The average 5th starter goes 4.1 innings.
Right.
Like he's right in line with what a 5th starter is supposed to be. Now, obviously, they get much better when Jack Flaherty becomes your 5th starter or Quintana or however you're moving things around or whatever you want to call it.
Problem to have.
Yeah, obviously they get much better with Jack Flaherty. Obviously, that's great, but I think we were way overreacting of what Dakota Hudson is and what we expect of him because he's coming off an injury.
Well, he's coming off an injury and he's coming off a first year where he had an ERA, a sub 3.5 ERA.
Right.
And it fooled a lot of people because if you look at his FIP that year, the year after this year, the FIP, that fielding independent, which is supposed to show your expected ERA based on great plays being made behind you and stuff on the field. It's always been over 4.20.
Right.
Always. So even that year, I was like, yeah, but he's getting
it was kind of like John Gant. You're like, yes, he's getting out of some stuff he's not supposed to.
Yes. And I think the luck's run out with him in that regard.
Yeah.
His pitches are flat. Yes, he's coming off of Tommy John, which is a toss-up sometimes of, velocity, but I mean, Justin Verlander's coming off of Tommy John.
Yeah, but Justin Verlander is
he looks awesome.
Is Justin Verlander.
Yeah,
I mean,
but Wainwright struggled his first year off of Tommy John. Most guys usually
it usually takes you another year after you've missed a year.
But my thing is, what if we're looking at Dakota Hudson as a 5th starter when he's probably more like a Brad Thompson? Like, what if he's supposed to? What if he's supposed to be a sinker baller out of your bullpen when you've got a big lead or you're behind a lot, or maybe a guy
he was good at that last year out of the bullpen. He did well with that, and
because he can get ground balls, especially against right-handed hitters. What if he's a guy you have coming in to get a ground ball double play?
Absolutely, not this year. This year's not really what he's. That's not really his game this year. It's not really snapping off that way to be able to get those ground balls. But I think I told you this via text, but like, whenever he is expected to be a 3rd starter,
then it looks way worse.
It's a big deal. Like they've missed, and why is he put in that position is because the front office didn't do anything with their pitching staff in the offseason. It's kind of like when Harrison Bader isn't hitting and the team was really and the rest of the team isn't hitting, people jumped on Harrison
His
Bader.
struggles are magnified.
Yeah, absolutely. And then whenever the team hits, and then you're better off. You're like, fine, okay. He just needs to play defense, right? It's that same idea.
Yeah.
And whenever Dakota Hudson is your third starter, yeah, it's a big deal, and this is not good. But now that the rotation is very solidified, he's doing what I think would be expected of him. He keeps you in games. I have to look it up again. Off the top of my head, in 16 of the 21 games, he allowed 3 runs or less, something like that. It's like in line with what you expect of a fifth starter in the Major League Baseball, and he's done pretty much that. Obviously, Jack Flaherty coming back, he's not going to be starting. I think maybe 1 or 2 more starts because obviously the doubleheader. That's the only thing that's keeping him in. And then he'll probably get some bullpen time, seeing if he's worth being put on the postseason roster.
Right.
That's the big thing because, like, I think back to 2011, and Kyle McClellan was that guy.
Yeah.
Maybe 13 even. But Kyle McClellan was the guy that was the fifth starter, the long relief, that guy that we got bumped back and forth from that spot, and then was left off the playoff roster and was like, wow, that guy really did so much for your season, but then was left off the playoff roster. That's kind of about where he sits right now. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised that he's left off the roster, but he still gets a couple more starts, and he's going to be the only one of 3 pitchers on the team to start over 20 games.
Yeah. Yeah. He's making his starts. I think it's probably a lot of this is recency bias.
Yes.
Because I was looking, I think it was 11 of his 24. It's almost half. He had gone at least 5 innings, 3 or 4 runs or less, which, like you said, for a 5-star.
He keeps you in the game consistently. Kept you in the game. That's what you need. That's what you need from a fifth starter, though.
But the problem is here lately he hasn't been. Aside from his last start before this one in Cincy, when he went 7, I think gave up 2 or 3 runs.
Yeah,
he had a pretty good start. I can't remember who that was against.
Yes,
it's just, I mean,
but again, as a fifth starter, it's not terrible. Whenever he was a third starter, this was a really bad situation.
Yes,
and that's why, and I don't put that on Dakota Hudson that they expect him to be a third starter when he's really a fifth starter. Like that's all John Mozeliak and Michael Gersh, I guess. If he was at the Hall of Fame, I saw Michael Gersh, and people were like, "Who's that guy? Oh, he's supposed to be running the ball club."
Yeah, I think Jack coming back, if he's even 80, 90, 70% of what he was 2019, is going to alleviate a lot of problems. If he's Jack that we know, I mean, you're talking about a huge X factor.
Absolutely.
In the playoffs. Huge. Especially when you look around and see the Dodgers have lost Walker Buehler for the year to Tommy John.
Gonsolin.
Tony Gonsolin's got forearm strain, which typically leads to a shoulder. And typically leads to Tommy John. They think he's going to be back by the end of September, but that's a huge. I know the Dodgers just keep throwing guys out there like, how do all their pitchers have under 3 ERAs? Some of these guys. I'd never heard of Tony Gonsolin before this year. Obviously, Kershaw's come back for them. They've got good starters, even with those 2 guys hurt. But if Jack comes back and he's good, it opens up a lot. I mean, I feel a lot better about an LDS or an LCS if we can get there. I definitely feel like we can match up. And we matched up with the Braves fine this past weekend and played them, and that's somebody we could easily see in an LCS or LDS. So I think it's huge with him coming back. Obviously, the question is going to be, one, these next couple of days, how does he recover after throwing 100 pitches?
Right.
I don't think he's thrown over 100 pitches the whole year. This year. So that was clearly intentional for them to give him one more rehab and see. They want to see how he recovers. And then after that, is he the Jack that we're used to seeing when he's healthy? Because even last year, before he got hurt, what was he, 11 or 12-0? He was on his way to starting an All-Star game.
Absolutely.
ERA under 2.
He was spectacular.
Fantastic.
And we're talking about how can we afford him is what it got down to.
Yes.
How can we afford him and keep other players? Like that's where it got to after he started just killing it. And then he obviously got hurt and he hasn't been the same for a year and a half.
Yeah, he could be a huge X factor. So, I think that's what we're hoping for, right? You're after the first go of trying this, you're not expecting much.
Yeah, but you're hopeful.
Yeah, you're hopeful.
You're very hopeful.
Expectations are low, and then he blows past that, and we ride into another hot September. and we don't have to play just one wild card game, it's going to be really nice to have him as your 3 or 4. I mean, and I've heard, BT and some of them talk about it. Michaelis has struggled a
Yes.
little bit this month. If he keeps struggling and Jack just comes out 5, 6, 7 innings every night looking great, how do you not have Jack as your number 3 starter in a series?
Or even number 2. I mean, you have Waino.
I think right now I would have Montgomery maybe number 2. I think he's earned that at this point, unless he just starts to fall off. Now, the thing with Montgomery is he hasn't faced a lot of good opponents yet.
Right.
So we saw him face the Braves this past weekend.
We also saw Yankees, but it was but that was they were not playing well. They haven't played well.
They come in struggling.
The Cardinals are almost as many wins as them now. If you think about that, is insane to me. The start that the Yankees were on. But yeah, he hasn't pitched a lot of good. In this weekend, obviously, he played the Braves, and it didn't go great.
Yeah, 5 earned.
Yeah,
it was a couple big hits in 1 inning.
Right. Well, I have, you said we only wanted to go real quick. We're at almost an hour, like normal.
Typical.
But the only thing else on my bullet points that I had was to talk about Hall of Fame weekend a little bit.
Oh yeah, you got to go to that. Awesome.
It was really cool. Had a lot of great experiences, but I've never done it before. Never gone to Hall of Fame weekend, and it never really crossed my mind as something that I wanted to go to. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, it wasn't like, I gotta be there for that. Like opening day, I have to go.
Big bucket list.
Yeah, opening day, I have to go to every opening day. Like, that's what a part of it. And I'm not that big of a Holiday fan. Matt Holiday being, I have never been a big Holiday fan of his game, but more so lately listening to him on the radio every week, listening to him in the booth whenever he just last week as well, has made me more of like him as a person. And I didn't go specifically to go watch him this weekend. It just happened because I was trying to get a signing with Scott Rowland, and Scott Rowland canceled, and I got Chris Carpenter's autograph instead, which was great. But I did have a conversation with Chris Carpenter. I said, I want to ask you a question. With the playoff format changing because of they're shrinking it because of the lockout, right? They're shrinking it all up. I asked him, do you think the Cardinals in 2011 are able to still win the World Series with the shortened schedule in the And so we just lost connection there for a second. It looks like we're back in there, and you probably missed my entire story. So there you go.
Well, you told me some great ones.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to meet a lot of.
I did. I got to meet and see a lot of the Hall of Famers.
Yeah, I mean,
Tommy Herr. I mean, rubbing elbows with all of them. Big Mac gave me a fist bump. His big, huge
hand was as big as your head.
But he had his World Series ring on, and it scraped me right up. Like, I got a mark on my finger from it.
Ryan hasn't washed his hands.
Yeah. So. It was great. Big Mac's up above my shoulder. You can barely see him right there. Autographed with Sosa. Right. Yeah, with Sosa, both of them autographed. But it was a great weekend. Now I'm saying that will now be on my list of things that I need to do every year.
Along with you to that next time, because I've never been either.
Yeah, and I think you have to be out of the Cardinals organization, retired for like 3 years to be eligible. So we may not have very many good names available next year.
Yeah.
But like, I'm trying to think who that could be in that. Again, there's not probably a lot of good availability, but it's still a good weekend. Every Cardinal Hall of Famer, most Cardinal Hall of Famer are going to be there. So that by itself gives you an opportunity to be around with all that happening, and autographs and pictures.
Is Freeze already in it?
No, I don't think Freeze will make it.
Oh,
dude,
I've
had this conversation. I've had
watching. They are.
He's
gonna make it for 2011 alone, man.
I think that he should. I don't know. He had to place
there's a fan vote, right?
But there's parameters you haven't even qualify. Did he play enough season as a Cardinal to qualify? Who's not in it as well? The guy autographed down there is David Eckstein. World Series MVP.
He should be in it.
He's not either, because they played these little bitty windows for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
So they're not in it. Their moments are, their big things are, but they're not in it. because of
They're not a Red Jacket.
they're not a
Interesting.
yeah. It's a conversation I've had. Like I even asked David Eckstein when that was another one of those awesome. By the way, to get on the museum schedule and see who the signings for Saturday. Every Saturday when they do the signings, like you got to do it. And
Highly recommend it.
oh my gosh, like it's $20 to get an autograph from this week. It was Chris Carpenter because Roland canceled, but like David Eckstein, I had a conversation with David Eckstein and said, you know, what do you think about you not being in the Cardinals Hall of Fame? Like, is that something? He's like, all I wanted to do is win. It was never about the accolades afterwards. It's all about winning. That's all he cared about. So like, I'm sure that they don't really care about. They think it's an honor, I'm sure, but like they didn't play the game to get the accolades. They played the game to win, and they both obviously won at the highest level. But so like,
yeah, Eckstein I could see. I mean, he only played 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think you have
All-star in his first 2 seasons, but nothing.
I would have to look at
nothing crazy offensively.
I would have I would have to look at the parameters on the to be in part of the Cardinals Hall of Fame. I want to say it's 3 years or 4 years that you had to play, maybe even 5 years you had to play for the Cardinals.
So Freese is right at 5.
Yeah, so I don't remember the exact thing. So like, but again, his numbers were very not great either. Like it wasn't like he was a world beater, but he was at the end of 2011, and he was obviously in that whole run. So like,
yeah, it is interesting. I wonder if it's one of those things, especially with Freese, because both he and Eckstein don't have the gaudy numbers, right? The home run numbers or the RBI numbers or anything like that.
But they're folk heroes forever.
Yeah. So like, I wonder if it's like an honorary type. You're a huge staple part of Cardinals history,
right?
That probably deserves
a
Red Jacket.
I mean, they named the lawn after him. Do you think that's his honor?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But you know what I mean? Is that why they did it? Because, hey, by the way, you're not getting into the Cardinals Hall of Fame, but that green grass is now yours.
But why not I think it would be cool if you let some of the members now, the Red Jacket members now, have like an honorary committee that they can vote in.
So I think that would be. They do cool. Have not the Red Jacket members, but there are a group that vote for down the line. Like after you could go on the museum website and like learn about the Cardinals club, like all of it and how they decide. Like this year was, as we know, Charles Comiskey, who again played for the Cardinals not very long, and he didn't do much as for the St. He played for the St. Louis Browns, not the Cardinals. But he didn't play for them very long. It was like 1800s, at the end of 1800s for like 5 years, but he then did great baseball things. He founded the AL, they did that for the other things. And then Julian Javier was the other one who's revered as one of the best second basemen in Cardinals history, not in baseball history by any means, but in Cardinals history, all of the highlights they showed over the weekend was him turning double plays. Like that's what he did. That's what he did. And by the way, Julian Javier is one of my new favorite people that I did not even know about as a Cardinals fan. That he was hilarious in his speeches, and he was so hilarious. And I'm now a big Julian Javier fan, and I'm happy that now I know more that I can't believe as Cardinals fans we weren't taught before. Like we didn't hear about before because he was in the heyday of McCarver and Gibson and Mike Shannon was there, and all those times that they were all there and winning World Series. You didn't hear about Julian Javier, and that's really cool for him to be able to get that honor. And he was so happy to be able to get the honor. And he's one of my favorite people now. But like to wrap all that up is I highly recommend going to every year now to go to the Hall of Fame weekend just for the opportunities to be able to be there with all the
pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, pomp and circumstance, which I love opening day for all that. But you're also with around all those Hall of Famers that we don't know how long we get to spend with them. We lost Bob Gibson and Lou Brock and Red in a matter of a short period of time.
Yeah.
And Mike Shannon was there, and Tim McCarver was there, and Whitey was there. They're all there, and
they all come back to honor the new guys.
Absolutely, and it's really cool. And I tweeted at Dan McLaughlin how great he did and how fun of an event it is.
Yeah.
And I plan on making it a part of my annual trips from here on out.
So I've got here, I was looking up the eligibility
for
the Cardinals Hall of Fame. Nominees must have played for the Cardinals for at least 3 seasons and be retired.
3, okay.
Be retired as a player for at least 3 years. Eligible pool of players is divided into two categories, including modern players and veteran players. If a player is retired more than 40 years prior to their induction, he is classified as a veteran player. So that's probably why you saw Javier and some of these, older, some maybe not even alive, right? Like Grant Trickey and others that have been inducted in.
And Comiskey this year. Yes. His great grandson took the honor for him.
Yeah.
He was Charles Comiskey III.
Yeah.
Was there, and he was really old himself.
Yeah. So, I mean, player retired more than 40 years prior to the induction. So that's classified as a veteran player. So those modern players,
that's Julian Javier, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, if he hadn't been retired for more than 40 years. But the modern players are the ones like Holiday and those, they're selected by the fan vote.
Yes.
So the veteran players are selected by what they call the Red Ribbon panel.
There you go.
And so that panel, interestingly enough, is made up of 14 members. Some highlights of those are Tom Ackerman, Frank Cusimano, Derek Gould, Whitey Herzog, Ben Hockman, some media, some former players.
Right. So
Tony
some
LaRussa,
of those,
Bernie Mifflin.
So some of those Red Jacket guys.
Joe Torre.
Right.
Brian Walton of the Cardinal Nation, who we hear talk with Danny Mac all the time. Randy Carricker, he's a part of that group. So you got some media, you got some former players. They're the ones voting in those retired players of 40 years or more. So, but the minimum is at least 3 seasons with the Cardinals.
So like Eckstein's right on that cusp.
Right on it. Yeah. Eckstein, and now it doesn't say like 3 full seasons or like minimum games played, because obviously Freese had a lot of injuries.
Right. So that it's a conversation.
I think Freese would get in there.
But if you put him on the ballot, he's going to.
Well, let me ask you this: is David Freese going to have a statue at Busch one day?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
Who has statues? Who has statues at Busch Stadium?
Hall of Famers,
not Cardinal Hall of Famers. Baseball Hall of Famers. Ted Simmons just got his because he got in. Okay. Because. So I don't think so.
Maybe they should put this amazing statue in the middle of Freese's lawn.
Or
the batter's
how about this?
There in center field.
There is one statue that I noticed this weekend that I'd never noticed before, by the way, in Ballpark Village on the Walk of Fame, as they call it, that goes between from like the STL and down all the way down to the World Series huge trophy. There's a statue right there. Could you see a David Freese statue in Ballpark Village? Yes.
Yeah.
Because that I can see. Like out there, and especially if they expand Ballpark Village again, like they've talked about doing, and there's more buildings and more areas to walk, yes. Could there be a David Freese statue? Absolutely. But obviously, there's going to be an Albert Pujols statue. There's going to be a Yadier Molina statue. There might even be an Adam Wainwright statue. There might be a Goldie statue. There might be an Arenado statue. Like there's possibility for a lot more statues to come, but I don't think David Freese is going to be the one that's on Busch Stadium like property right there. I just don't think it is. It's going to happen because of what they've set. The Cardinals' history is so big and so grand that as big of a moment as those were, there's 11 world championships and there's more to come. And that is just one of those events for a guy that played a few seasons.
That's true. Big part of Cardinal history, but doesn't quite have the numbers.
Right.
I do think we will see a Waino statue because I think that
he comes back.
He gets to 200 wins. He should already be at like 195, 196 this year, but the offense doesn't do anything.
That's why wins are dumb for a pitcher stat.
Pitches. And Ryan Helsley's 10-1 or whatever he is. I think we could see Goldschmidt and Arenado. So
they got to win, by the way.
They got to win.
They got to win.
Help. But we saw earlier this year Goldie's 300th home run, I think.
Yes.
Right? We saw that in person. Arenado after tonight is 3. I think they said 3 away from 300, 3 or 4. So he's right there too. And
by the way, sorry to interrupt, but we may never see 600 home runs again.
Oh no.
As a career. Like the number, like, so like 300 now sounds like this little blip on the radar of like this little bitty amount. These are going to be big, important home runs when you're talking about guys get to 400 and 500 home runs.
Yeah, I think at this point now in this modern era, if you get guys getting to 500, they're locked for the home.
Right. It's back to dead ball type era.
And I think Arenado has a shot at 500. I don't know that Goldie does, unless he has like a Nelson Cruz type renaissance
career.
Yeah, in terms of aging really
because
well.
he's like in his 30.
He'll be 35.
Yeah,
year.
so like if he played 5 more years and still hitting 30 home runs a season, sure, right?
He could.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not
crazy, but
it's probably unlikely. I mean, Arenado's right at 30,
but he doesn't get injured really either. Knock on wood.
Yes, he and Arenado both. That's why I say that they might be two of the last ones we see.
Trout gets injured a lot.
He does,
and he's in the 300-ish range now too. I do believe he's over 300, but like, it's just something that's not going to happen. Like what we're seeing from Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera, those guys and what they're doing right now, like you're not going to see these numbers ever again, which is just insane.
Trout's at 338.
Yeah, so like he is 30 years old himself. 31.
He's 31.
Yeah,
he
like
just turned 31 this month.
He's like it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it just makes what Albert's doing this year even more.
Yeah,
we could do a whole podcast episode on how unlikely. I mean, what Albert's doing. It's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Right now. So that's about all I have.
Yeah, I don't remember how we got off.
22, 23 wins, whatever it was. I mean, I don't know where that's at in Cardinals history, but I don't remember a time of complaining as less as I have during Cardinals.
They won the games they were supposed to.
Yeah.
And they won games that we didn't think they would.
Yeah.
And they came from behind. They had a lot of good come from behind wins. Tonight was one.
Grinded through that. I mean, the Braves were trying to give it to them, but
the Braves series, they trailed probably for.
They trailed several times.
Yeah, trailed for many innings in that series. Like they trailed for a lot more than they led. And they were able to persevere and come back and win 2 big games in that series. So I think they're in the right path.
We've always played, knock on wood, we've always played pretty darn well in September.
Absolutely.
So let's hope that they just, and Yachty and Wayne and others have said before, we're a second half team. That's definitely been the case the last 3 or 4 years. So let's hope that it continues. Fingers crossed on people staying healthy, especially pitching.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and we might be good to go.
Yeah, and I'm excited for the last month. We have a lot of favorable schedule, which will help get us set up for a good postseason run.
The only teams we have left to play above 500 are the Brewers 4 times, the Padres, and the Dodgers, and that's a 3 games each West Coast trip at their place. That's gonna be a tough series. But you're talking 10 games?
Yeah.
10 left of the
30-ish. I mean, I think
you should still having 6-game lead. We should be good. Now the next question is, who would you rather play in the first round of the playoffs, the Padres or the Brewers?
Brewers, obviously.
I think I would too.
Absolutely. We're gonna be at home, which no matter what, that's good, right? Because the Cardinals
does not scare me at all.
The Cardinals play well at home.
Yeah.
And that's why you had to win the division. Yeah. That's why you had to win the division, because you don't want to go on the road for 3 games anywhere. So yes, they get a whole new life. I mean, on Saturday's game, it was a playoff atmosphere in St. Louis against the Braves.
Oh yeah,
you
could feel it watching it on TV.
It was playoff atmosphere outside the ballpark, inside the ballpark, before the game, after the game. It was like, it reminded me of going to playoff games and people just partying and having fun after a big win.
Yeah,
it was that lively, and that's why we have to win as many games as possible to be playing at home.
Yeah,
because you need it. Go catch the Mets.
Yeah, let's just go on another 17, 18, 19 game win streak.
That's it. And we're only 7 games behind.
Get a first round bye.
Only 7 games behind the Mets-ish, something like that. But all right, well, that's all I got. Go to Hall of Fame weekend every year. Enjoy that. Experience it.
I'm hopefully
going to do the Saturday signings
day with you next year, because the Cardinals are at home for the first game of the season forever.
Yeah, and do the signings. It's the most inexpensive way to meet Cardinals legends, have a conversation with them, and get signings from them. Yeah. It's the best way, and I think and you get to see, like, it's not all a bunch of no names. I mean, it's dudes Chris Carpenter signed this weekend. I'm trying to think of other guys. Tony Womack I got up over there. There's been dudes. They do all kinds, even the lower level guys. The big ones sell out. Like this weekend sold out, but other ones they don't sell out. So I recommend that. I recommend going.
Do those come with a ticket to go through the Hall of Fame?
Yes,
as well, right? Yes,
it does.
And I've been to museum before. It's fantastic.
This year's the '82 World Series team is being. Last year was the 2011 team was had an exhibit specifically. So you have like
we'll
a news.
See if the Cardinals Hall of Fame will sponsor this podcast.
Absolutely, brought to you by the Cardinals Hall of Fame. Yes, we have the tweet that's out there for the Goldie giveaway. Goldie wins MVP. We're giving away.
Retweet that and follow us.
We're giving away a jersey. Got to retweet it. Got to follow us. You got to comment how many home runs you think Goldie. As this gets further along, it's easier to figure out how many home runs that Goldie might end up with. The highest guess I have is 50. If someone has.
That's bold.
Yeah, that was bold. I was like, that's even what I said. It said 50. But yeah, check that out. Make sure to retweet it so you can be able to win a jersey. Where the goal is to give away a jersey. I want to give away a jersey, and hopefully that means that Goldie is the MVP, so we can give away that jersey. So be able to follow us at That's a Winner Pod. Anything else?
No. Yeah. Let's. I mean, we've got a really good chance to be having to give away jerseys. It wasn't going to happen with one.
But remember, we let them pick.
We did.
The vote was Albert hits 700 home runs or Goldie wins MVP. Which one would you like us to give away? Which is more likely to you, so we can give a jersey away? Right now, Goldie's on a cold streak, and Albert is 6 away. Do you still feel confident with that? I think both of them's going to happen.
I do think both are going to happen. I hope both.
I hope.
Maybe the tweet we should have done was Triple Crown. That might have saved us.
Yeah, Triple Crown is now looking bleak because he's
a little. Yeah, I mean, he's still only a couple behind home runs, but leading pretty well in average.
Yes, average he's got, and no one's catching him in average.
No, I don't think so. RBIs though, he's only a couple ahead of.
I think he was tied at last check in RBIs. But anyways, all right.
We'll see.
That's it for That's Winter Podcast. August was a great month for the St. Louis Cardinals. Go into September and let's win some more games and have a great month going into the playoffs. Thanks again for listening. This has been That's a Winter Podcast. Oh, an hour 11 minutes.
That sounded all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I got an alert that popped up, like lost internet connection.
I saw that too.
I lost internet connection, and then it popped up. It went to 2 screens, and then it popped back. And I was like, oh, well.
It just blipped out for a minute. So what does that do? Does that blip out the audio?
I assume it blips it all out. But we'll see what happened. We'll see what
I only saw it for that just like a couple of seconds or whatever. Well, we can push this out tomorrow. Maybe people will listen. We didn't really break down the game a whole lot. I mean, we talked about some. I think everybody watched at that point. That was going to be brutal if we lost that one, man.